Hello students, welcome to Legacy IS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the recent development that has happened in the United Nations Security Council, where India has decided to abstain against a resolution brought by the United Nations Security Council member countries against the Russian invasion. Here we have to discuss or understand this decision of India in the context of realism versus idealism. We will also try to decipher that what is the rationale behind decisions of India in this particular context, and what are the, we can say, narrow passageways or narrow passageway that India has to move along when it has to maintain its balance between the West and the Russia. So let's try to understand this whole topic in more detail. So first of all, the context, to give you a brief background of the particular issue, that on the Saturday, that is today, India has abstained from voting against a United Nations Security Council resolution against Russia. The resolution was mainly a statement that deplored in the strongest term Russia's aggression against Ukraine, and the resolution's main aim was to halt the Russian invasion or to halt the Russian attack in the sovereign territory of Ukraine. However, as far as the India's response has been concerned, the permanent ambassador to UN from India, Dr. T.S. Tirimurthy, he has said that dialogue is the only answer to settling differences and dispute. Now, background about this resolution, so presented by two countries, it was United States and the Albania, and at the same time, the resolution was also co-sponsored by various other countries, Australia, New Zealand, Norway, UK, and also European countries like Poland, Romania and Lithuania. To give you the brief background about the resolution, or what are the main points or brief points about the resolution. So first of all, the resolution actually talked about the commitment of the United Nations as an international body in determining or in protecting the sovereignty, independence, unity and territorial integrity of Ukraine. At the same time, the resolution also deplored in the strongest term the Russia's aggression against the Ukraine, and the resolution wanted Russia to immediately siege its use of force against Ukraine. At the same time, resolution also said that Russia shall immediately, completely and unconditionally withdraw all of its military forces from the territory of Ukraine. However, one thing we have to keep in mind, that earlier when the resolution was in its drafting stage, it was prepared or it was thought to be presented under the Chapter 7 of the United Nations Security Council. The Chapter 7 of the United Nations Security Council mandates that if a resolution passes, then the enforcement actions can be taken by the member countries to enforce the resolution or to enforce we can say, whatever the subject matter of resolution is. However, later on in the stage of introduction, this idea to introduce the resolution in the Chapter 7 has been dropped. Also, if we talk about the fate of the resolution, so obviously, as we know, that Russia itself is one of the permanent members of United Nations Security Council and thus hold a veto power. So obviously Russia has vetoed its resolution, and due to this, resolution was not able to pass and it went into a dead end, which was already expected. So if it was already expected, why the countries wanted to present this resolution in UNSC? Simply because they wanted to show the solidarity of various permanent members as well as the United Nations countries as a whole, the member countries as a whole, that did not stand or do not agree with the decisions that has been taken by the Russian government. Now let us try to understand this from the perspective of India, that what India has said and how India has abstained. So obviously India has said that it is not able to vote in favor of this resolution because of the harsh language that has been used against Russia in the resolution. At the same time, it has helped India, or it will help India in maintaining a fine or delicate balance between the Western bloc that is led by United States as well as the other country, that is the Russia. And also India has to walk a very tightrope here because it has a legitimate security interest, and if it tries to vote in favor of Russia or in favor of United States, its security interest is something that can be compromised in the future, and that is why also this abstention is not something new, and as expected, it is in line with the traditional Indian foreign policy. However, one thing we have to keep in mind, that China and UAE were also two other member states who decided to abstain from the resolution, and the Chinese abstention is something that has come as a surprise for all the countries, because a few weeks back China was actually rooting for, supporting Russia, and in the last resolution it actually have completely given its support to the Russia. However, the current abstention of China shows that it does not hold or it does not back Russia fully as far as the war and aggression is concerned. Now let us try to understand that what the permanent ambassador of India to United Nations has said about the India's decision, and how he has explained the rationale behind this particular decision of India. So first, he have clearly mentioned that India is deeply disturbed as per the due to the recent developments that has happened in the Ukraine region. However, India has not named strongly or not named clearly that whether it is deeply disturbed by Russian actions or deeply disturbed by the changing in the or unfolding of the various scenarios that is going on in Ukraine. Apart from that, India has also the same statements and same we can say information was given during the during the telephonic conversation between Vladimir Putin and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where he has asked the Russia to cease the violence and to only discuss and only we can say resolve all the pending matters only via dialogue and diplomacy. At the same time, India has said that it is highly concerned about the security of the Indian nation because around 20,000 Indian students study in Ukraine in various universities. Out of that, only 4,000 has been able to come, and 16,000 students, as believed, are still stuck in Ukraine, whose life are in danger because of this aggravation and war. At the same time, as we discussed, India has said that both countries and all the parties should return back to the path of diplomacy and dialogue. And as far as the territorial integrity and sovereignty is concerned, India has also given a statement that as a member of United Nations and as per the United Nations Charter, each member countries of United Nations should actually respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of other countries and should act accordingly. So that is whole rationale or details given by the Indian permanent ambassadors. So let us try to understand that why India is not able to take a strong position or a one-sided position, because India has a diplomatic dilemma. If we try to understand that how the dilemma is there, so first of all, from the Western side, if we try to understand, if India takes a pro-Russian stance, then Western countries, especially United States, they can say that India is taking a double standards. The reason behind that is that we have a similar kind of border problem with China, and China also claims over a large area of India, especially northern India and eastern India, and that is where the territorial integrity and sovereign integrity came into picture. And if India takes a very strong Russian stance, then that is something which India has to deal with in the future. At the same time, the other problem is that if India takes a pro-Russian stand, then under the CAATSA of United States, US can put sanction on India, for dealing with the Russian in the military equipment import and export. Especially with the recent development that is happening, where India has imported a large number of S-400 missile defense system that can also jeopardize this. At the same time, it is not only that India has a strong military ties with Russia, but it also has large number of equipments that India uses, especially for the reconnaissance and surveillance activities in the Indo-Chinese border. There are large number of drones and all these surveillance equipments are there that India has imported from the United States itself. At the same time, around 50,000 winter clothing materials has been provided to India for use by Indian armies, especially when they are fighting in the high Himalayas, in the Siachen regions and such. Now, we try to understand that what is the stake for India as far as the Russia-Indo relationship is concerned. So, obviously, 60 to 70% of military hardware that India imports comes from the Russia, and thus we can say India is largely dependent on the Russia for its military supply. The overall trade volume is around $8 to $9 billion, which is continuously on rise. At the same time, the other problem, even if we try to not think about the military supply from Russia, other problem is that if India takes a very pro-strong or pro-Western stand, then Russia and China can develop an axis, and Russian-China axis, especially when Russia is not fully supportive of India, can become a very difficult scenario if in the near future China becomes more aggressive along the Indian borders. That is also something India wants to avoid, where Russia and West both act as a balancing power, as a balance when India tries to navigate its territory across the relationship with China. At the same time, India also has a stake, as we discussed, because large number of Indian diaspora is in the Ukraine, and their security interest is something that India has taken into consideration. So it cannot take a very strong either pro-Russian or pro-Western stand. So what does it entails for the India's diplomatic space? First of all, many experts believe that the India's stand of abstention in the United Nations Security Council resolution is consistent, steadfast, and a balanced position that is going on since the Nehruvian era, and especially since India became a member of neither the pro-Western alliance nor at that time the Soviet alliance, but India actually initiated a concept of something that we know as non-aligned movement, which India was a proud member of. That is something that India's position is in consistence with. At the same time, Indian experts state that taking a position of abstention does not actually help India in talking or have a dialogue with both countries on the both side, and thus it opens option for India to reach out to both relevant sides, so that in the future it can bring an effort to bridge the gap and find a middle ground instead of this invasion and instead of this warfare. And largely it is about also real politics and securing its interest, because India's problem is China and Pakistan, which need to be balanced with the Western and the Russian side. So in conclusion, what we can say to sum up it all, that it is the debate within Indian establishment about what to choose. Obviously, since Russia here is invading, as discussed by many experts, and it is a threat on the territorial and sovereign integrity of Ukraine. On the basis of principles and idealism and values on one side, India should have taken a strong stance and supported the US viewpoint. However, at the same time, we have to take into consideration the pragmatism and the real politic and the realist interest which India has to ensure, especially from its own security standpoint of view, with reference to the Chinese threat. So basically what we can say, that though as of now India has been able to walk on this narrow territory when balancing its interest in both Western and the Russian side, but as a new conflict in the 21st century has begun, and if it engages or if it goes on further for a longer period of time, then India will have to make a tough strategic choice. There is no other option. But for now, India has been able to insulate itself from either, we can say, a strong sanction either from US or some strong, we can say, viewpoint that from the Russian side. Here we have to understand that Russia and US alliance both have applied pressure on India so that India can take a pro-Western or pro-Russian viewpoint. But however, India has managed to abstain it. But we have to see how the development happen in future. So that is all about an explanation regarding why India has abstained from the UNSC vote or UNSC resolution. I hope you understood about this particular topic. We'll come again soon with another interesting topic. Till then, take care. Thank you very much.